construction of perimeter wall, parking, driveways, landscaping, and septic tank, which was done at 19,260,000. Then there was the construction of gate and underground water tank at 3,573,664 given to the use, both totaling to 22,833,664. The total cost incurred in the project was 44,059,832, while the amount paid in the main contract was 32,349,464.05, bringing the total cost of the project to 76,296,297 cents. We have an extra number 3 that effect. We have answer.
Auditor General, you may need to advise us whether the original scope of works as stated in the bill of quantities included electrical installations, doors and frames, mechanical works, skimming and painting. No, this is not really for the auditor, this is for the DGG. The original scope of works, because I would not expect that you give a contract to build a house and then exclude electrical installations, doors and frames, skimming and paint, and mechanical works of that original contract. So these works which were done valued at 21 billion, are they scoped in the original contract?
Yes, you are wrong, but because of the two things. Number one, the tenure of this project is good. Imagine over 6 years. The cost of perhaps cement from the initial time to after 6 years brings such differences. And then number two, the variations that were done on site.
No, doors and frames cannot be a variation on site. A house must have doors and frames. A house must have paint. A house must have electrical installations. I'm not talking about the other variations, the perimeter wall and landscaping. I'm still on these additional works of 21 million, which in any reasonable contract ought to have been part of the original scope of works. Or you are building a speaker's house without doors and frames, without paint work and skimming, and without electrical installation.
Yes, right, yeah. Actually, this is the issue that you were discussing under the retention amount paid to a contractor. And here, as you can see from our documents, is that the first contract was awarded to minimum. I think that the cost of around 34 million, which of course would be based on the design that had been developed by the State Department of Public Works. It was expected that by the contract that is starting or adhering to the scope of works, we expected that we would give the speakers
and you were just one over the key.
And over the key.
Yeah.
But what they did is that the residence was not complete and they issued what you call certificate as is, which we have attached here, implying that the project was not complete, but the contractor has been discharged. Now we were left with a shed without the doors, without the paint.
How we paid at 2 million?
How we paid at 2 million?
At 2 million.
Yes, because of the variations mainly that was done on site. The challenge that we had to share is that the State Department are the supervisors of these projects. Even as you raise a certificate of payment, it is approved up here. The State Department of Public Works. And when we
so they are the ones who approve certificates up to 32 billion.
Yes.
Without doors,
yes.
Without paint, without electrical installation.
Yes. We had push and pull. In fact, we were in the contractor for the last payments. Until now, we were made to understand, because you see, some of us, the issues of construction, we may not understand so much what is certificate of completion as is, as opposed to certificate, practical, what we call certificate of practical completion, like we expect that we should have just been having already. So that was the main challenge that was there. And that is the and paintworks.
No, so who then takes responsibility for payment of 32 million without delivery of what was agreed? Because these members here, and I think all of us perhaps, we have built something. And when you give a contract to a contractor, unless it's a labor-based contract, but when you've signed a contract with a contractor and you have said, I'll pay you 34.5 million, give me a house and deliver the key. You are bound by time. You are bound to, as long as you're making your payments as per the certificates. And you've gone ahead and paid 32 million. 32 million, which is 90%, isn't it?
90%.
Over 90%.
Yeah.
And the house is incomplete.
Yes.
Where does that responsibility lie?
Chair, I was
Yes,
also wondering, because I heard the speaker saying that the supervisor is the Ministry of Works. So you guys are just told pay. You're just told pay. The money comes from you, right?
Yes,
So who is this that tells you to pay? If you
the-
yourselves are not satisfied, the money is yours. Why can't you say, no, we can't pay?
Yes, Chair, I agree with you, Senator Sifuna. The main challenge really that we had it was the aspect of variation. In fact, the variations that were done on site was not even approved by the client, that is the County Assembly of Kericho, at then. And that is the reason why we took a lot of time even before we discharged this contractor, because we didn't agree with what the State Department of Public Works had advised. So we had a big challenge with them. And that's why I was saying, Senator Sifuna, you know, for us, we expected certificate of practical completion certificate, but what we got instead was certificate as is, implying that the contractor can now be discharged, having been assessed by...
That is understood,
Yes.
Speaker.
Yes.
But at the point where you are being told to pay, if you are unhappy, because you are telling us you are unhappy, the variations were done without consultation with the client, why were you just releasing money? If you put your foot down as an assembly and said, we are not paying these certificates, so you would then open a conversation between you, the Ministry of Works, and the contractor about your unhappiness. Now you're coming to tell us you are unhappy, but you paid. It's your money.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest issue, Senator, is that when now we have that certificate as is, it puts us in a very difficult position, because you've got to now pay. Payments is through a process. And when that certificate is there, because I remember at some point in time when I was discussing with the clerk, he was telling me that the contractor, in fact, has even now threatened to take us to court, because already he had all the necessary documents as approved by the State Department.
And that's the question. What,
Yes.
does the county have the capacity to supervise and to approve the certificates? How did we build this in such a way that that certification comes from the national government?
Yes, Chairman, the county government, I know it varies. For instance, the issue that, the second issue that we have here on the construction of perimeter wall, which was a different contract, not part of the original contract awarded, was supervised by officers from the county government, that is from the county executive of Kericho. So we didn't know. It's something that I think there was an issue, and I know you are aware, because of the ceilings that had been developed, and that is why they had said both for the governor's residence, the deputy governors, the speakers' residences, there was a ceiling that was capped, and the mandate was given to the State Department of public works.
Senator Lelegwe?
Speaker, did you have an independent consultant? Did you appoint your independent consultant? Because I guess in other counties, they advertise for independent consultants to advise the service board on such matters.
Senator, no. By that time, the county assembly didn't have an independent consultant.
Why? You advertise for design of these works?
Yes, Chair, this is a project that was advertised in 2019, and maybe Clerk, you can mention something about it.
What is unique about 2013?
2019.
19.
What is unique about that year? What are you telling us? You were not there.
Yeah, exactly. By the time actually, I I joined the county assembly in 2022, Senator.
But the clerk was there?
Yes.
Okay. So, clerk, you are paid 32 million?
Yes.
And then you need another almost 40 million to complete a house?
Not 40 million, sir. 21. No, what happened, Your Honor, sir? You know, when we started this project, there was an assumption that these projects have to be supervised by the State Department of Public Works. That is where we went wrong, number one. Number two, the way you have said, because of variations, you know, today they will come here, want you to do this, change this to be this way. All that was eating the contract sum. And of course, the prolonged period to complete this project also had an impact in the financial aspect vis-a-vis the contract sum. At the end of the day, the project is not complete. The money has been spent almost fully. Then there was no way out. This is the advice we were given by the engineers from State Department of Public Works. Our hands were tied. Every advice we were to follow, but unfortunately, we were not getting value for money during that time.
So, were you using the State Department of Public Works as your consultant?
Yes.
And were these funds to fund this project, were they conditional grants from the national government?
It was not conditional grant, it was our negotiation with the executive to give us the kept amount, the 35 million that was kept by the Senate during that time to construct the Speaker's residence.
It's unlike the county headquarters. I think the county headquarters, some counties got a conditional grant. And those are the ones that would perhaps be strictly supervised by the State Department. Yeah. But otherwise, this is your budget. This is money allocated to you for development that you could, yes. Yeah, you had all the right to choose whether you're going for an independent consultant as proposed by Senator, or whether you're going to use the county resources to certify. So you should also not allow the national government to come into things that they're not supposed to be coming into, because you can see that this has now cost you almost 21 million shillings more. Maybe we need to do a scan, and researchers, you might want to do a scan and find out the extent of compliance with the ceilings established by the Senate. For speakers' residences, we had put it at 35 million. For governors' residence, we had put it at 45. And for deputy governors, I think we had put it at either 35 or 40. Are counties complying? The truth is this, that these ceilings were established almost 7 years ago. With inflation and increased cost of construction material, they might not be tenable today. But it is not a license for you to break the law. What you need to do is to come to us, you as speakers and clerks, and tell us, Senate, you gave us a threshold, but it is not practical. Can you adjust your resolution to be in line with inflation? Because if a house you built at 35 million 7 years ago, definitely you will need probably 30% more to build it today. There've been new levies, there've been new, should we call them incentives or disincentives? when it comes to the construction industry. Speaker, those are the things you guys should be coming together to discuss. Yeah. So we probably might start that conversation, invite you, if you're not going to call us for a meeting, for us to see whether the 35 million is working. Because it's 7 years now. Probably it needs some inflationary adjustment. We must also ask ourselves, what is the role of the State Department when it comes to these projects in counties? And why can counties have the capacity to supervise and certify their own projects? Because now it seems like that is the reason why for 32 million, you still had to look for an additional 21 million. Auditor General, is this building complete with all these escalations and variations? From your assessment, is it complete?
We have a paragraph on the same, which says it's not complete. Just below there.
Speaker, is this building complete?
Yes, Chairman.
And it means you live in it?
No, not yet, but it is. We need to move to the next stage of now procuring furniture and the other appliances that we don't have. But the residence now is complete. Even in the other paragraph of there is a paragraph on delayed completion of perimeter wall. I think again that has been now dispensed, and we even have a certificate of practical completion indicating that it is complete. So we are now moving as we had the last meeting we had with our county assembly service board is that we shall be allocating resources in the next budget, that is from July next financial year, so that we can perhaps equip it so that I can now move in and stay in the house.
Senator
Chair, I need some clarity from you, Daktari.
Yes.
There are some documents you've attached here, I think, under Annex 5, which you are calling monthly progress reports between the clerk of the county assembly and the Ministry of Lands, Housing and the Public Works Department.
Mm-hmm.
Those documents tell me that there were, again, the document says that there were monthly progress reports. How does that accord with the story that you have told us here, that you were never involved even in those variations and everything that was being done? What were these reports for if you are not being involved? And I hope they are signed. Let me just see who signed this. Clerk, it's your name there. Yes, sir. So why are you saying the ministry was not involving you in these things? What are these reports for? And see, someone called Raymond Koros is the one who prepared I think these are minutes.
But Chair, yes. Can I say this? Annex 5, sir. It is this for perimeter all the works that we are unbundled. It was supervised now. It is now being supervised by the county works people. So all along, the initial construction was done by the State Department. But when we
but that is very interesting, Chair, that you can allow construction for the house to go unattended, but then when it comes to the wall is when you want to be involved. Surely, why are you expecting a wall, or are you expecting the house?
After learning big lessons, you are on, sir.
So the wall is properly done?
Yes.
No, we will. When was the certificate of practical completion issued? Was it during the audit period or after?
That will be after. This was 17th July 2025.
17th July 2025. Yeah. Auditor General, was it within this?
Chair, I want to confirm verification was done on 4th June. So completion was after verification. On the ground, Yes.
I think keep this in view. It raises a lot of questions. Keep it in view. When we are doing our follow-up after the customary 60-90 days, we will need to do a proper appraisal on the value for money on this particular project and make more recommendations that can cut across the rest of the counties. But I hope that the speakers and clerks can bring a motion or can petition the Senate to revise the ceilings, because because of inflationary pressure. You can't have that threshold for the last 7 years. Unless, Clark, you think that that amount was enough.
Oh, no, the amount was not enough. And more so when the structural plans were kind of exaggerated. You know, you can go to a simple house that befits the speaker, but if you go something bigger, you will not meet the demand of that money.
But we have never had any petition from SOCAT or from CAF, or specifically from Kericho, telling the Senate, could you kindly review this?
And Chair, we've seen counties that have built speakers' assemblies and even had a bash in them.
Yes. A bonus 5 million for a
A
bash.
bonus 5 million for the housewarming. I mean, what sort of houses do speakers desire to reside in? What is the most speaker? If you saw if you came to my house in Nairobi here, the senator's house, that's not enough for a speaker.
Not really, Senator. It's just a decent house, maybe, that was designed by the State Department of Public Works.
Senator Lelekwe.
Speaker, when you terminated, did you terminate the contract with the first contractor? When did you terminate that contract?
Yes, it was the one now. They issued certificate of completion as is.
Yes.
The contractor was discharged.
First, that document as is not. We can't see anything.
It is there.
Yeah, it's there, but Annexure 3. So you terminated the contract on 16th.
This is the letter, yes, 16th June.
On 16th June.
From now, Ministry of Land, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development.
Yes.
Department of Public
So
Works.
that is the contract you terminated was for Mignon Logistics Limited.
Yes.
And you proceeded to pay them again in 2024, December 2024, after terminating the contract in 2023, June.
Yes, Clark, you can respond to that.
Yes, when the certificate was prepared, the final certificate as is, we had no enough monies at that particular time. We had to wait until we got money. That is the reason why it took a bit of time for him to get his monies.
So since that certificate of practical completion was done in July, outside the period the Auditor General was looking at, we want the Auditor General to take a holistic view, because now this thing has gone to 76 million rather than the 35 million that the Senate had put as a ceiling. We shall follow this up at the implementation review meetings and perhaps give firm directions on the matter. We are remaining with just one matter. We thought we'd be done by 12. There is this matter of the County Assembly of Kericho Chambers and Office Block. Irregular payment for terminated contract.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Irregular payment of terminated contract. The Assembly awarded a contract for construction of County Assembly of Kericho Chambers and Office Block on 16th February 2024 to a merchant at a contract price of 498,908,309. The contract period was for 156 weeks, commencing on 11th March 2024 and ending on 8th March 2027. However, 4 months after officially taking over the site, the contractor had undertaken minimal activities on the ground and consequently was issued with a first warning letter on 3rd July 2024 for minimum performance, failure to submit to the project manager a revised work program, and lack of any contractual reason for failure to execute works. Following the site meeting held on 6th January 2025 between the contractor, County Assembly Service Board and Project Implementation Committee, a mutual agreement was reached to terminate the contract due to minimal work done for the period of more than 1 year. The contract was eventually terminated and Kenya shillings 15,861,468 being interim payment for certificate number 1 was paid as per the statement and measurement thereof. the management failed to carry out due diligence on capacity of the contractor, and payment of Kenya shillings 15,861,468 was irregular since the contractor was in breach of the contract for non-performance. The management should have released the board. In the circumstances, the government did not get value for Kenya shillings 15 million paid to the contractor. Thank you, Chair.
Management response.
Your Honor, sir, the County Assembly had undertaken due diligence before awarding the contract to the said contractor. Furthermore, the contractor was the lowest responsive evaluated bidder, which was also within the budget ceiling. However, upon handing over of the site, the contractor was moving in a very slow pace in his work, hence necessitating the client to issue the contractor with a warning letter. After negotiations, there was a mutual agreement to terminate the contract, and only the works which had been certified by the project engineer from the State Department of Public Works was paid for. There is annexure number 4 to that effect. Thank
Does
you,
the
sir.
annexure
Number
show
4.
the works that had been certified?
Yes.
So what works had been certified? Because this would be one of the easiest ways of making money. You get a contract, you don't perform, you get paid 15 million to go home. What is it that they've done for 15 million?
Yes, Chair, there are some joint measurements done.
Is it here?
Yes.
In your appendix number 4.
Site progress work, Your Honor, sir. Site progress works against the work program.
Where exactly? Just
Yes,
Take
page
us
number 2, site progress of works against work program. As you can see there, the activity, the schedule, the actual, and then the remarks. For instance, mobilization and preliminaries, site clearance,
Clerk,
demolitions.
I'm lost. Which document are you looking at?
That is annex term number 4. Yes, that one. Page number 2. Yes, on top there. Site progress of works, yes.
Where you have mobilization, site clearance, demolitions, etc.
Yes, Chair.
Excavation and earthworks, cutting away soil from site, and access to site. So then there were also materials on site. That's the next page. Yes, 330 tons of ballast, 150 tons of sand, 4,000 feet of timber, and 3 10,000-liter water tanks. So again, that certification was done by the State Department of Public Works.
Correct, Your Honor.
Why did you go for State Department of Public Works rather than your county resources?
Thank you, Chair. I think because of this issue of ceilings, and they are the one who developed the designs, and there was an advisory that they are the ones to supervise the project, cutting across all the county assemblies. I don't know the one that has been given the condition of grants, but if you look at it, because this has been the main challenge, we have been discussing actually at CAF on this issue of State Department of Public Works and
Speaker.
Yes.
For assembly chambers and offices.
Yes.
I don't think there was a centralized design.
There was not design, but
there was just a cap.
A cap
that it should not go beyond 500 million.
Exactly.
But then counties assemblies were free to do their design, engage their consultants, do their procurement, manage the supervision, without taking it back to Nairobi.
I think it is the same notion, Chair, that we had, that perhaps we have a department, a state department, that we expect that they should be the one really when they advise, because of the aspect of the capacity. This, maybe just to mention, is that such a project of high magnitude, of such costs, I think this is the first project, in fact, the whole of the county government of Kericho, with the highest amount of money. And we thought, as a matter of due diligence, we should really involve the State Department of Public Works in terms of supervision and everything. But maybe just to mention.
So you believe the certified 15 million was reasonable?
Yes, Chair, reasonable because of the works that had been done at then. Just to mention something about this contractor, this is a contractor by the name Will Corey, and he's a very notorious contractor. The one that actually he was doing Bukungu Stadium, and he admitted that in fact he had challenges in terms of implementation, but in terms of paperwork and everything, Chair, the contractor was perfect. When due diligence was done, everything was okay, and we expected that he will move with speed. In fact, it took over a year for this 15 million that has been paid. I think it took over like 6 months to even just holding site, and the very many challenges that he had, and he admitted that he was not able to proceed. The only thing that we did is that since we had been given a ceiling of 500 million, we made sure that the other contract now, having agreed, we awarded it now at a cost of not more than 484 million, so that we could not surpass the ceilings the cap that had been set in terms of the amount.
Now, Auditor, at what point does a performance bond come in?
Sorry, it's supposed to be part of the documents the contractor submit.
No, what does a performance bond guarantee? Because for this kind of project, I'm sure a performance bond was required. So what does a performance bond guarantee? What does it indemnify?
Yeah, it covers the client in case the contractor does not perform.
So in this case, the contractor did not perform.
That was our fee. We never performed.
What was the value of the performance bond on this? Isn't it usually a percentage of the total sum? Why insist on a performance bond and then you terminate and still use your money to pay for non-performance?
Yeah, I think by the time the contractor was now being discharged, already, you see, the issue was actually the issue of capacity. And the bond, maybe we need to provide it here so that we see, because those are some of the issues that we raised, that we even fear that even the bond that he has provided may not even cover the county assembly. So that is the challenge that we had.
Senator
Chair, I think you're asking a very valid question. If it is true that the contractor had executed a performance bond, it is supposed to indemnify you against non-performance by the contractor. But here's a situation where he has executed a performance bond, he doesn't perform, but you still pay him to exit. How does that sit?
Yes, Senator, as I said, the challenge that we had with this contractor was capacity. Slow implementation or slow construction of these assembly chambers and offices. And he alluded many times that in fact he was waiting to be paid the Bukungu project so that he can come and proceed with the works. So, Chair, I think the most important thing to note is that whatever he was paid here is the amount that he had discharged. Is the amount actually that was due to him because of the works that had been done. So it was a certificate that was raised, and now totaling to 15 million.
I'm not a quantity surveyor, but I've looked at the annex and the things that this guy is supposed to have done: mobilization, site clearance, demolitions, excavation, cutting away soil, accessing the site. The only material that I see here, I am not sure they would cost more than 1 million Kenya shillings. Actually, not even anywhere near there. Some ballast, sand, timber, and 3 water tanks. Where you come from, a water tank costs 60,000 shillings. So 3 of them would cost 180,000. 15 million, if you ask me, Speaker and Clerk, it's a bit too high. I don't know.
Yes, Chair, I think maybe to dispel that fears, we have the certificate that was raised, and I will request that maybe we table before this committee, we can send it to you with your permission, so that you can perhaps confirm.
Senator Lelego?
Chair, I don't know what the Speaker wants us to get from the document as attached Annex 4, because that document is data, a project data from the contractor. We don't have any certificate from the Public Works Department to show us anything that would show us the details of these 15 million. So we are not getting anything in this, because this information is from the contractor. So where is the certificate from the Public Works?
Your Honor, it's just unfortunate that we did not enclose that certificate. It's supposed to be attached to this letter from the contractor. We are sorry, but the certificate was prepared by the State Department of Public Works, and we have it.
Okay, now what we can do, because the thing is, we do not seem very comfortable with this 15 million that was paid. But even if it was validly paid, there was a performance bond. Why can't we demand indemnity from the body or the company that issued that bond? Clerk. You have terminated on the basis of non-performance. And that's why there is a performance bond to protect the client, not the contractor, isn't it? Does it protect the contractor or it protects the client?
It protects the client, Your Honor.
And it is mandatory, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And in this case, it was the contractor provided a performance bond.
Correct.
Of course, the Speaker is even doubting whether it was valid. But if a contractor was to underperform, provide a fake performance bond, this committee and Parliament has the power to debar a contractor from participation in public procurement. Because if you're telling us he was somewhere, he underperformed, he came to Kericho, he underperformed, and if you're going to establish he brought a fake performance bond, then that person has no business anywhere near any public project. So, Auditor, we'd like you to demand a copy of the performance bond, look at the terms, and advise us on whether the bond allows the county to seek indemnity for the 15 million that was spent. If it's a fake bond, then first of all, it will call to question your procurement systems, because there has to be a way of verification of bonds or any other guarantees that have been presented to you. But if it is fake, then this contractor should not be allowed to do business with any public entity in future.
I will do that.
Honorable members, I think that brings us to the end of the critical issues that we were to look at with regards to the Kericho County Assembly. The 3 things that stand out is the issue of the Speaker's residence, which the Auditor General is going to do a further review now that a certificate of practical completion has been issued. The County Assembly chamber and offices. And Speaker, there is a temptation by assemblies to go the Homa Bay route in terms of building this infrastructure. Homa Bay went to, I think, CPF and did a tenant purchase scheme agreement, which, strictly speaking, is a loan, which requires a guarantee of the national government. I want to discourage you from following that route until you're absolutely sure of the legal implications of what you're going into. I hear from the grapevine that Kakamega might be going that route.
County Assembly, I want you to be extremely, extremely cautious about that route. Because a TPS is a mortgage. A mortgage is a loan. A loan under PFM requires a guarantee of the national government. So without that guarantee, please do not get into that adventure. Because I think in Homa Bay, we are locked into certain installments that are so heavy and that are mandatory that before you even buy medicine, you have to pay the mortgage. I don't think it's a very fair arrangement. It gives you the building quickly. You have the building, you can move into it. But then the financial implication, especially with the strains by county government and delays in exchequer releases, sometimes a county ends up defaulting, and when it defaults, interest keeps piling, and then the building becomes much more expensive than you thought it ought to be. So please do not go that route until you are sure that you can get a guarantee. Use your development budget, and if you have problems, you can approach the Finance Committee of the Senate, and they can always assist you in revising your ceilings. So I think that summarizes the key issues that we have dealt with regards to Kericho County Assembly. Once again, this is what we expect of you as the chair of the County Assembly Service Board and the clerk as the accounting officer, that you take time to come to the Senate, and you can tell that the conversation at the Senate is not about witch hunt or blackmail or harassment. We are very keen on making sure that county assemblies function. Once again, we congratulate you for seeing it fit from time to time to refer matters to the Senate. We shall always stand with you, even if we don't always agree with you. That brings us to the end of this session. Honorable members.
Just a small comment on that. If I remember correctly, the issues with the efforts to bring accountability in Kericho always failed at the arithmetic hurdle. I think twice the question of numbers and threshold for the impeachment was the problem. That is not to mean that there are no issues in Kericho. And we understand the situation in which most of these assemblies are operating and the sort of leverage some of these county executives have on them. So the people of Kericho, as the chair has framed it, should not look at the Senate as, or at least the assembly should not look at the Senate as an impediment. That we are also bound by the law. There are issues with devolution, and we will always be there to support that cause. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, Public Accounts Committee, unless you have something to say in closing.
Thank you very much. I think I want to appreciate the Senate for oversighting the county assemblies and the county executive as well. And also, maybe I would like to also request for a session with your committee so that you can also engage and learn more on oversight. Again, with the OAG, reports sometimes come very late, and when they come in numbers, in large numbers, and you see the timeline. For example, you said it's March, might not be reasonable enough because we have other activities again. Again, in our assembly, you see our committee is dealing with all investments, we're dealing with finance at the same time. I know in Senate it's split. So maybe in future, maybe with consultation with the Speaker, we can have an extra committee so that it can also look at, some can be looking at investment and others can be looking at finances so that we can be able to tackle the reports within a shortest time. Otherwise, in our assembly, we are very keen. I remember some of the reports that we tabled led us to impeachment. And it came from the Office of the Auditor General. Some of the things made us also to have other committees to further investigate some of the issues that you saw that we presented in the Senate. Otherwise, we were a bit disappointed when Senate voted against us. But for issues like retentions, actually, those were the real issues. For example, in the retentions, they were paid, you will find retention being paid twice. or 3 times, you find tissue being bought at 3,000 shillings. So those were very key issues that maybe we will be happy to have seen prosecuted by the Senate. So we still have more issues, but we are a bit hesitant coming to Senate again.
No, I think I've said we will stand with you, even if we don't agree with you. And go back and encourage your governor to come here. If he fails to come here within the constitutional timelines, I can tell you that's an impeachable offense because it's a violation, it's a direct violation of the Constitution. Remember when you are referring to the Auditor General's report back then, some of the advocates were arguing that those matters are before the Public Accounts Committee. Right now, the governor has not used this opportunity to come and explain himself. If he fails to do so by 31st of March, we don't have to tell you what you should do. It's up to you. We'll stand with you, even if you don't agree with you. But thank you, Chair, for... I think he has made a proposal that you can consider, Speaker, maybe splitting committees or allocating work to different committees so that the funds and those county corporations can have proper oversight. It's sensible. We have done it at the Senate. Mr. Speaker, anything in closing?
All right, thank you so much, Chairman and Honorable Senators, for this interaction. Chairman, maybe just to mention is that the County Assembly of Kericho, where I'm privileged to be the Speaker, has actually perfected the art of Linda Maliaraya. I don't know what Honorable Spoon has been championing, but the County Assembly of Kericho really, they have understood their role of oversight. And as mentioned by the Chair, Park, is that a number of the issues actually that was raised and brought to the Senate were some of the issues already that had been investigated by the County Assembly, and already the various reports had been adopted by the House. I wish that in future, Honorable Chair and distinguished senators here, this issue of preliminary objections really should be considered. Perhaps it should form the last part also of voting, so that the Chair, the people of Kericho would have really, until now, they don't know what was in the envelope that was sent to the Senate. So I appeal to you that perhaps so that we can have a fair hearing, probably some of the issues.
Speaker, you've just pricked my mind on something. The law says you cannot use the same grounds for
yes.
You cannot use the same grounds for impeachment.
Yeah.
But if the proceedings terminated on mathematical technicalities and you didn't go into the substantive issues, can't you use the same grounds? I mean, it's something that we need to ask ourselves.
I think an impeachment can be brought at any time on whatever grounds, for as long as there's a time difference of 6 months.
But there's something about not bringing the same grounds.
Yes.
If you are they were canvassed.
So where it terminated on technicalities, can the same grounds still be used?
Yes, Chair, after some period of time, I think the law provides so that you cannot use the same ground.
But Dr. You know, at the end of the day, these conversations are important. In fact, we as a Senate have never got an opportunity to explain ourselves. I think this is the first time, Chair, and the Chair of Public Accounts there needs to understand that some of us are, I don't know how I can say this, we take the oaths that we swore very seriously, Speaker and Chair, that we are also bound by the law. It is very difficult to ignore certain things. I remember, for instance, in the case of Isiolo, Speaker, there was a court order nullifying the proceedings in the assembly. Yeah? And it's not to say there are no issues. I mean, but as a lawyer, as somebody who has taken an oath, I've taken an oath, I think, 3 times. When I became an advocate, when I became SG of ODM, and when I was elected to the Senate, I took those oaths. And most of those oaths, I swore to protect the law. So, and I remember the judgment in the Isiolo case, the judge actually said she was not going to stop the Senate from hearing that matter, but we must exercise our own conscience as a Senate for the place of rule of law and constitutionalism as a constitutional entity ourselves. And I'm telling you, there was a lot of pressure on us, but Sifuna cannot ignore a court order. That one you will have to forgive me. If there is a question of threshold, our own rules, it's in the rules of the Senate, unless you're saying we amend the rules. And by the way, we have dealt case by case. There's a case where the decision was made that the preliminary objection be argued with the entire case, because there was, preliminary objections are purely matters of law. Purely matters of law. I think that one was a different case. But in the case of threshold, the question of numbers, Speaker, it is impossible for us to ignore direct provision of the law. Unfortunately, that's who some of us are. And it's not to say that there are no issues in the counties, but for me, I think it will be the saddest day if I ever ignored a court order or an express provision of the constitution of the law. So I think
even though you recall the last one, the assembly shot themselves in the foot because the members who voted came and said they didn't vote.
Yeah.
So doubt was cast on whether the voting exercise was transparent, whether it was accurate, verifiable, and all that. It was almost qualitative that it could have been tested up to the end. But a decision that the Senate has made, perhaps we don't need to explain ourselves, because irrespective, there are 47 delegations. Maybe each delegation had a different view of matters. But what we want to encourage you, as Senator Sifuna says, if things are done properly, we shall apply our minds to the matters that are before the Senate.
Chair, allow me to say something on that issue, because it's an important issue. First of all, I also find it a bit difficult, actually almost impossible, that there are entities before you in the Senate on impeachment, and among us themselves, they can't even agree on the number of people that voted. That becomes very dicey. I mean, it's either 10 people voted or 12 voted. There can never be some people saying it was 10 and others saying it was 12. It cannot, it puts us in a very awkward situation. And I think that's why the Senate, in its wisdom, has kind of taken the matter of ratio very, very seriously. That before we can even look at the issues before us, can we dispense with threshold? Was the threshold met? And I think it is not so difficult for the Assembly, if there are really grounds for impeachment, if your number is, the threshold is 31, to get 31 members vote in favor of the impeachment and walk straight to the Senate with a document that says that one of us voted, and if you want to call all of us here, we are here to say yes, we voted. That makes work easy for everyone. I thank you, Chair.
My last comment is that
Senator Sifuna,
the Assembly must know that these laws and rules exist to protect all of us. Some of my colleague senators also want to be governors. I am not one of them. And Senator Wambua, Senator Wambua would not want to open that door because we know the shenanigans and the games that are played. I wish his cameras were off. We know the games that are played, like some of these counties, even the environment that was there in the assembly itself, where you have goons sponsored, they come and destroy the Hansard, they beat up members. We are politicians also. We are aware of the situation. And I think that is probably what needs to be addressed. I remember the Senate directing the Inspector General of Police to provide security for one of us. Can you imagine? Because of these proceedings that can be quite acrimonious and people play all sorts of games. But I think it's a challenge of us as leaders to be able to resolve some of these things.
And Senator, you probably also reflecting, you are before the political parties dispute tribunal, challenging process. So it's not something that people should encourage shortcuts. If it's clearly defined, then it must be clearly upheld. Because we can lower it in the case of a governor, and then the same knife comes and cuts us in our Secretary General's position, or even me as a chair of PAC. Governors are afraid they want me out, but there is a procedure to be followed. So I think we are not telling you, Speaker, go and impeach your governor. We don't believe that that is the best solution, but we are just encouraging you on the parameters that you should ensure are observed.
All right, maybe let me add something on the same. Number one, as a speaker, I've also not had an opportunity to clear the air on this matter. I can confirm to you that in terms of procedure, the impeachment process was above board. And in fact, back at the county assembly, there was threshold that was met. There are a lot of dynamics, Chair, now having been the speaker now for these 3 or 4 years. And I realize that you are politicians, you know, and I wish there are some things even that we cannot discuss sometimes on camera. But just to confirm that indeed there was the honorable members of the county assembly voted, and they voted to impeach the governor. The only issue that I need to maybe say, because this is something that we felt that the Senate at some point in time should have considered, is that you have recommended and you have indeed said that you cannot determine who voted electronically or not, and you call for an expert. And when that expert comes to the Senate, and when the expert gives his or her opinion, you say, no, we don't. You still vote for that opinion, and we are relying on an expert. That is something that maybe perhaps Senator Wambua and Sifuna and yourself and Senator from Samburu, you should pick that, because then why do we have experts? And you are the same house who have requested for opinion from the expert, and the expert have said the system was verified. So that is something, Chair, that needs to be looked at.
I mean to say that.
Was that the expert who was dismantled by Ongoya?
Speaker, it's an important conversation to have. But let me tell you, you cannot say that because an expert has come before you, that everything he says or she says is a gospel truth. It doesn't work like that. Even the evidence by the expert must be tested. That is why you go to a doctor. Like this morning, I woke up and went to see a dentist. And you also, after leaving that place, you want to go and seek a second opinion from another doctor. Because some of these experts are also experts, And I'm not saying your expert was also an expert, but I'm saying, the evidence that they give, the evidence that experts give must also be tested. And if it doesn't meet the threshold, then that's what it is.
And finally, Chair, I want to sincerely thank the Senate, maybe through you, for we have been partners, the County Assembly of Kericho and the Senate. But more specifically, I want to appreciate the Senate for approving the law on financial autonomy of the county assemblies. In fact, it will go a long way in sorting out these issues that we saw in the last impeachment. Really, the county assemblies have been relying on the governors. And Chair, I'm sorry to say this, that we have governors who are the modern pharaohs, because if you don't agree with them, they will only give you salaries. That has been a case, for instance, in our county. It has been a very serious issue where you've got to kneel before a governor so that resources can be released to the county assemblies. It's just because that you have an assembly that are very strict on oversight, you become an issue or a problem to the governor. So I want to appreciate the Senate and even the National Assembly for doing a very good job, and we hope that now going forward, the county assemblies now will be able to discharge their duties without fear and favor. So I want to sincerely take that message to all honorable distinguished senators for the good job that they have done.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also express our appreciation to your colleagues, because I know some governors have called their speakers and clerks and told them, since we are not going to the Senate, also don't go to the Senate. And I think we are proud that the speakers and clerks across the country have decided that watalinda katiba, tuendelee kulinda katiba, because that.
Chair, I think we also have a problem because this issue is going down to the CCs. When we want to call some of the CCs, they also have a tendency of starting to fail to come and account in the county assembly. So it's not only the governors. So you see, oversight is going to be affected all the way from the Senate downwards to the county assemblies, because I saw even recently, when you try to summon a CC to ask a question, they tend not to want to come because they are seeing their bosses. If their boss is not going to be touched by the Senate, then even us at the county assembly, we are having issues.
The impunity goes down
downwards, yes.
No, I think I want to encourage you, because there's a motion that we are submitting to the House next week. We shall debate and have it adopted, where we are saying the basic principle in financial management is that you cannot be given more money if you have not accounted for that which you had already been given. And once the Senate adopts that motion, we will be calling upon the control of budget not to authorize release for the executive in a case where they have not completed the accountability cycle. That accountability cycle is defined in Article 229. So if the Senate can have that power, then I believe even the county assembly can have that power in a devolved state, so that they know that if they don't come before the Public Accounts Committee of the county assembly, you have the power to ask the control of budget to freeze accounts until they do the right thing. We are starting it with the governors, and once we are successful with the governors, I think it can come down to the CECs in the counties. So with that, we close the meeting. We were supposed to have closed at 12, but the conversation got interesting. I think I was winding up by saying clerks, speakers have defied the impunity of governors, where they are calling upon you to boycott appearance before the Senate. You have done the right thing. Munalinda katiba, na tuendelee kulinda katiba na kulinda ugatuzi. The meeting is adjourned. We wish you safe travels back to Kericho. Honorable members, we'll adjourn for about 5 minutes to allow for setup of the room for our next meeting with Makueni County Assembly.